Continuing on with our brief outlines of the books of the Bible, we come to the first book of Samuel, chapter 1. In chapter 1, we read about the birth of Samuel. Samuel's dad, Elkanah, had two wives actually, Hannah and Peninnah. Hannah was Samuel's mother. But at first, Hannah couldn't have children, and Peninnah would provoke her endlessly, always picking on her about it. And so one day, Hannah was at the temple praying. She was praying in her mind, but her lips were moving, but she wasn't saying anything. And there was a fellow named there, Eli, who had two sons that were priests in the temple. They were Hophni and Phinehas. But Eli, he thought she was drunk. But she assures him that no, she doesn't drink, and she told him what her problem was. And he was praying to God for his son. And she told him that if God would give her a son, that she would consecrate him to the Lord, and that he would serve in the temple all of his days. And sure enough, next year comes along, Hannah has a son, Samuel, and she brings him to the temple, and she turns him over to Eli. In chapter 2, we read about Hannah's song of thanksgiving. Hannah is extremely grateful to God for giving her a son, and she writes and sings a song to him. In verse 12, we see the sin of Eli's sons. Now, Eli's sons were Hophni and Phinehas. They were priests in the temple. It wasn't with the temple, it was the tent. The temple obviously hadn't been built yet. That won't be built until the time of Solomon. But they were the priests there, and they were sinning. God had set up a certain way for the priests to receive their food from the people that would come in and sacrifice. And Phinehas and Hophni decided that they were going to do things their own way. They didn't like the way God had set things up. And God says that this is despised the offering of the Lord. And then, in the meantime, Samuel is growing up. He's a boy now. And his mother would come every year and make him a little robe. And he would keep ministering to God. And then we see that God visited Hannah and blessed her even more, because then he gave her 3 sons and 2 more daughters. And then we see, starting in verse 22, how Eli rebukes his son. Well, he was very old now at the time, but he rebukes his sons, but Hophni and Phinehas apparently they didn't care. And so God gets mad and tells Eli, well, the plan was that you and your family would walk before me all the days of your lives, but since your sons have sinned and will repent about it, that they were going to cut them off. And God said that he would raise up a faithful priest, that Eli's family would have to bow down to them for everything that they needed from that point on. In chapter 3, we see the prophetic call to Samuel. Samuel's still a boy, and he's still ministering to the Lord in the temple, and he's still with Eli. Well, one night they're sleeping, and Samuel hears a voice. So he says, "Here I am," and he runs into Eli, and he says, "Here I am, you called me." And Eli said, "I didn't call you. Go back in there and lie down." So Samuel does, and he hears God call again, but he still thinks it's Eli, so he runs in there, and Eli said, "No, I didn't call you. Go lay down." So he does, and it happens a third time, and this time Eli tells him, okay, it's God who's calling you, so when you hear the voice, just say, "Here I am, Lord, your servant is listening." And so he did, and God told Samuel that he was going to bring an end to the house of Eli because of the sin of Eli's sons. Well, the next morning, Eli wanted to know what God had told him, and so Samuel told him. He didn't hold anything back, and all Eli said was, well, it is the Lord, let him do what is good to him. And of course, Samuel keeps on growing, and God keeps working with him, and pretty soon all of Israel sees this and knows that Samuel has indeed been confirmed as a prophet of Israel. In chapter 4, we see that the Philistines and the Israelites are at war again. And they meet up, the battle lines are drawn, and the Philistines defeat the Israelites pretty badly. And so the Israelites figure they need the Ark of the Covenant. And so they send some people up to Shiloh, where the tent is and where the Ark is. And also that's where Eli and Phinehas and Hophni, Eli's two sons, were. And so they get the Ark and they bring it back, and Hophni and Phinehas go with them. And so the next battle, they still get defeated, and Phinehas and Hophni die in that battle. Well, there's one guy that has survived the battle, and he goes back up to Shiloh, and he tells Eli what happened, that Israel had been defeated again, and the Philistines had carried off the ark back to their country with them, and that both Phinehas and Hophni had died. This, of course, saddened Eli greatly, and he was pretty old, and what happened is he fell over backward and broke his neck. Now, one of Eli's daughter-in-laws, Phinehas' wife, she was pregnant at the time, and she gave birth, and she called her son Ichabod, but she died right after she gave birth to the child. And the last thing she said was, "The glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God was taken." Okay, in chapter 5, we see that God is provoked by the capture of the ark. The Philistines had captured the Ark of the Covenant in the last battle and had brought it back to their country, and they had brought it into a city called Ashdod and put it in their temple of Dagon. And in the temple of Dagon, along with the ark, now there was a big statue of Dagon. Well, the next morning the priests go in there and they see that Dagon has fallen on his face. And so they pick him back up, set him on his feet, and the morning after that they go in, and sure enough, Dagon is flat on his face again. Only this time his head and his hands are busted off. So the people of Ashdod figure they better get rid of the ark, so they send it to the city of Gath. Well, once it gets to the city of Gath, God causes all those people to come down with tumors, and they start dying. So they get scared, and they want to get rid of the ark, so they're going to send it to the city of Ekron. It gets to Ekron, and sure enough, then people start to die too, and they start being smote with tumors. And then they decide to get all the heads of the Philistines together, and they finally decide, we got to send the ark back to Israel. Okay, chapter 6. In chapter 6, we see that the ark is returned to Israel. Now, after all that business with their god or statue Dagon falling flat in front of the ark and then getting his head and his hands busted off, and not only that, wherever they sent the ark within Philistine territory, they were smitten with tumors, and a lot of mice would overrun the area. A lot of people died. So the 5 kings of the Philistines got together and they decided to send it back to Israel. And they got their priests, and the priest told them, well, don't send it back by itself. You're going to need to send a guilt offering back, and so make 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice, and put the ark on a cart and put the tumors and the gold mice in a box next to it, hook up 2 cows, and send it back. And if it goes back, then you'll know God has lifted his hand from it, which it did. And the ark and the cows and the cart all end up in a place called Beth Shemesh. Of course, the people there are very happy to see the ark come back, but a couple of them get nosy, and they decided to look inside the ark, which was a huge no-no, and a whole lot of them got killed for it. So at the end of chapter 6, we see that the people of Beth Shemesh get a hold of the folks in Kirith Jearim, saying, the Philistines have brought back the ark of the Lord, and so you guys come down and take it up for you. In chapter 7, we see how God delivers the Israelites from the Philistines. Samuel got all the folks of Israel together, and he told them, and if you get rid of all your idols and your Asherah poles and quit worshiping Baal and all the rest of the foreign gods, and you worship the one true God alone, that he will help you and he will restore you. And so they did. They got rid of it all, and they decided to go up to a place called Mizpah and to do all this. And when they got there, Samuel said a prayer for them, but the Philistines they see them all gathered there, so they figure this is a good time to attack. Well, the Israelites get scared and call on Samuel to help them, and Samuel intercedes for them with God, and God sends a great thunder, which confuses the Philistines, and they take off, and the Israelites are able to chase them down and to defeat them. And so there is peace.